Hello and welcome back to another video, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to add decals in Blender like this instead of using a shrink wrap, because that's not really the best way to do that. So the reason that's not the best way to do it is because when you do the shrink wrap method that most beginners use, basically like faking it being on there, it also doesn't really work with curved surfaces that well, just of the nature of the Shrinkwrap modifier, and it will just look weird. So if I were to show that in here, I can just add in a plane and then scale it down. Let's say I want a decal on the top here. I have some bevels here, so some more geometry. First, let's subdivide this a little bit. Let's say I went over to the modifiers, added in a Shrinkwrap modifier, and then selected my target object to be the wooden ammo box. By the way, this is available on my Gumroad, alongside a lot of other models I just uploaded. And this is basically the problem we're getting. We are seeing all these artifacts because this is just on the same exact plane as this wooden ammo box. So what you're taught is to just increase the offset a little bit, and that will fix it, but then you will have an offset, of course. It doesn't really matter in most cases, but it really starts to fall apart when you start to move it like this. Maybe I want to rotate it. Will snap like this, do some weird things, and that's just not really what we want. So let's just fix this. The correct way of doing it is a little bit different, but you'll learn a lot of essential things for Blender with this. So first we of course need a alpha image or something we want to paint on here. So that can either be a PNG with transparency or just a black and white alpha image. On my website that's linked below, I have a lot of free alpha textures you can download and then use them to do something like this. So let's see, we can scroll down and look for some nice textures, or we can use the search bar in here to search for textures. I can click on them to download them. So let's say I want to use this one. I can just click and it will download it. All right, then back in Blender, I can select my object, can go over to texture paint. And then I want to make sure that I'm painting on the right image. So in here, I can make this a little bit bigger. I want to make sure that I'm working in the albedo texture. So just select that, it will show up on your mesh. This just makes sure that we are actually adding color instead of like something like roughness or normal data. We just want the color on here. You can do it on the other maps as well, but this is just a really quick decal method. The next thing we want to do is go over to the tool tab here, go over to the texture mask and then create new. We want to click this button right here to show the texture in the texture tab. This is just a really quick shortcut, otherwise you just click here. In here we can open up the image we just downloaded like this. And if we start to paint, you can already see our pattern appear, but it's kind of like stuck like this, and that's not really what we want. So just go back to the tool tab, then go over to the texture, make sure this is empty. Sometimes Blender will put the texture here as well if you add it to the texture mask. And then I just want to set this mask mapping to stencil, and this will bring up this image here. I can move this by holding down Alt and then right mouse dragging it over to the mesh, and then just rotate normally and just put it into place. I can zoom with Alt-Shift and right mouse button, and I can rotate by pressing Ctrl-Alt and right mouse button, and then just position it to where we want it, something like this. Then I want to select a color, and then I can just draw over this, like that. And now we have the decal on here. If you want to paint on multiple passes, like I am right here, you can just paint on the albedo texture, and then just leave the stencil here, don't move it, and then select a different texture, like for example the roughness. Now I'm going to switch over to a white texture, and then just paint this completely white. Then go over to metallic, set this to black, and do the same here. And I don't need to do anything with the normal. And then just save these maps, and as you can see, they will get those values. And then you will end up with something like this. Alright, and to save this image, you can just go over to this image editor tab, It should be open by default, but if it isn't, you can just make a new window, go over here, select image editor. And then you will see the star next to the image, which means it is not saved. So to save this image, simply just press on here and click Save As, and then you can save your image. And this will have the decal added to it, as we can see right here. So that's just really the better way of adding decals that I found really helps with just baking it to the texture instead of having a different object. This model is available on my Patreon. Please go over there to support the channel. It really does help. So I hope that helped. Also, check out my website. There are a lot of free alpha textures on there that you can use for things like this. They also work in Substance Painter if you're wondering. Yeah, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found this useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And then I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.